Hey, what's up, everybody? Joe here, the guy who was shot in the head outside Good Springs and made a full recovery. And I'm here to recap the fights with Armen Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot. Oh. A lot of names to watch out for in the future on this card. So, enough talk. Let's just get to the fights. And in the main event, we had a lightweight fight between Armen Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot. This fight was awesome. It was really good. I don't really agree with the judges on the fight, but honestly, pretty awesome nonetheless. So first round, we saw them hit the ground for the first time, which to me looked a really interesting aspect of this fight. And you know, like in a cartoon where like two characters are just kind of going at it, and it just kind of creates like that dust cloud that's like moving around all over the place. That's basically what it was like on the ground early on for like the first two rounds with these guys. Just a scramble fest. Both guys kind of locked the other out in the grappling, but on the feet, Tsarukyan did have the advantage with some really heavy kicks, and I thought he took the first round with his striking. I thought he had a clear striking advantage. Second round, literally the same thing, but there was a kick that was probably the loudest I have ever heard. And I know we're in the Apex, smaller crowd, and it's a smaller venue, so like sound really resonates. But let me have this. It was awesome. And you know, like when people say you have an iron chin, you take a lot of shots and it doesn't really affect you. That's Gamrot with his body. He took all the body kicks he took this fight were nuts, and just didn't even like really phase him. It seemed like round three opens up with Tsarukyan throwing a kick as they're touching gloves. Pretty lame, honestly. Oh well. This was a really close round, though. I thought, though, this was like the first round where, okay, there's an argument for who won. As Gamrot finally had some success with the takedowns. He did get two official takedowns, but in reality, he only really had one, I thought, because the first one he had, I think, a literal second of control, and that's not enough for me to really count it in my mind, but whatever. But the second one, he actually managed to take the back briefly, and you know was doing pretty well with it. It seemed like, but nothing really major. They got back on the feet, and Tsarukyan once again looks like the cleaner striker. But Gamrot did have some success with his hands, but I thought Tsarukyan slightly took it based on how the striking was and how quick he was to get up his feet. And when he was on the ground, he wasn't in the most danger. He was kind of locking him out and preventing Gamrot from advancing position or getting anything meaningful going on. But round four is when Gamrot starts having some great success in the striking, in my opinion at least. He all fight he's been throwing this one shot. He didn't do enough, I thought, but maybe he's seeing something I'm not seeing. But he would throw this. He was straight punch with his rear hand. From both orthodox and southpaw, because he was switching stances often in this fight. And it was working really well. He was taking the momentum in the striking until about 2 minutes in, when Tsarukyan missed, like kind of had like a grazing body kick and just went off spinning back fist off of it. It dropped him. He was on Gamrot was on one leg at the time, but it was pretty awesome. Back and forth in the striking for like the rest of the round, though. Tsarukyan is slowing down, and Gamrot does get a big takedown in as his cardio is fading for Tsarukyan, and he's able to get this great positioning finally and start threatening with submissions. And round five, Gamrot starts landing a couple punches, but he gets knocked down basically really quick, just swept off his feet by a low kick. And both dudes are just tossing shots at each other basically nonstop the entire round. And Gamrot looks totally fine cardio-wise, and Tsarukyan is looking gassed, but he's still having success with these kicks. Gamrot does get two takedowns in this fight, or in this round, but Tsarukyan does just get back up. Awesome fight. Super close. I thought round 1 and 2 were super clear for Tsarukyan, where 4 and 5 were closer, but I'm leaning towards Gamrot. So round 3 is where, in my opinion, the point of contention is going to be. I scored it for Tsarukyan personally, but I don't know. Close fight, regardless. And I think the matchmaking for this, though, that's his plain day. Gamrot should just fight the winner of Fiziev and RDA, the Battle of the Raphaels. Just fight the winner. And I think Tsarukyan should fight the loser after, of course, the loser of that fight gets a name change, because only one Rafael after that fight. And then for the co-main event on our next fight, the fight that I was really excited for is Neal Magny versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. God, gotta look at that name twice. So some people, in my opinion, I feel like they have Khamzat as their new savior of the welterweight division, and I will admit he is insanely good. But I have another guy, I think this guy is the real future of the division, and that's Shavkat Rakhmonov. And he's fighting Neal Magny, a guy that Khamzat potentially ducked. In the first round, we see a quick takedown from Rakhmonov, and just kind of batters Neal Magny the entire round. Great work from Neal Magny to survive, and he did use, he would attack a leg, He would just kind of use it to create space and be like, hey, I'll threaten this leg if you keep beating me up, But honestly, I make it sound worse than it actually was. It was actually a pretty smart move, I thought. But overall, not a close round at all. Rakhmonov just storms through the first round. Second round, we finally see some striking from both guys, but Rakhmonov goes for a spinning back kick and just gets a double underhook clinch pretty easily, or maybe an over-under. I can't quite remember. But from there, he gets Magny down to the ground, and when he isn't pounding him, he's just moving through guard and advancing positions like butter. And the shots, when they were landing and he was posturing up, were vicious. He had one elbow that made me it was rough. And Magny's literally just surviving at this point. Nothing substantial coming from him. And with 10 seconds left, Shavkat gets a guillotine choke that he's been working for a little bit, at least threatening throughout the fight, and he gets the tap. And it just is an incredible performance, I think. Just an incredible performance. And I don't know, man. This guy looks terrifying to me. I don't know what you do with this guy in terms of matchmaking. But I did hear that Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque are fighting. They agreed to fight. That sounds awesome fight to me too. But I think giving him the winner of that makes sense. Unless the UFC just decides to strap a rocket to this guy and just let it rip. They're not the best at promoting guys, but when they want to at least put effort in, they're really good at it. Finally, I have Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. So I almost talked about Josh Parisian versus Alan Baudot, because that fight made me giggle a lot, It made me giggle more than I expected. It's just kind of funny, long story short, Baudot's throwing standing hammer fists, and they're super gassed in the second round. But instead, let's talk about Chris Curtis, the name in the middleweight division that we should probably start looking into. So he had a widely publicized route, or at least covered, road to the UFC. He was in the PFL, where he had mixed success at welterweight. He beat Andre Fiallo. I think he finished Andre Fiallo, actually. And then the other one is he fought, the other big name was Ray Cooper III. He got knocked out in that fight. But then he went on the regional scene, just started smashing dudes before getting called up on short notice. And he fought Phil Hawes at middleweight and won in a spectacular fashion with a counter left hand at the end of the round one. Before that, though, I'm sure people have also talked about this a good amount, but he was on the Contender Series, and he won by hook kick and some extra shots and just an insane performance that I really like. And Dana didn't sign him. And this adds fuel to the fire for a theory I have been seeing lately. Dana is a terrible talent scout. Who knows if there's any truth to that, but I think skipping over Chris Curtis was kind of a big one, especially with what he's doing now. And he just smashes on Vieira this whole fight. He stopped, look at the exact number here, 20 takedown attempts against Rodolfo Vieira, who, by the way, won ADCC in 2015. And he has over 18 gold medals in grappling. This dude knows how to get the fight to the ground. This isn't I've heard, people who don't that kind of no grappling, I guess. They say, oh, if your jiu-jitsu guy doesn't mean anything, it means you can't take a guy to the ground. It means you're wrestling. Wrestling is where you get the guy to the ground. Wrestling, if you're good at wrestling, you are going to be great at taking a guy to the ground. But in jiu-jitsu, it's a lot. You don't want to get put on your back. So you have to have some idea of how to stop a guy from taking you down by tripping you, sweeping you on your back. And you also want to do that to them, so you do know the basic concepts of putting your opponent on their back and getting a dominant position. In jiu-jitsu, they're not just on their back, just throwing up kicks at each other from, like, come on, not butt scooting around. He knows how to get a guy down to the ground. 20 takedown attempts. That is insane. And he stopped all of them. Just a great performance in the striking, too. Just was battering the body with like a left hook to the body. Knees, whenever he would stuff a takedown and they're standing back up, just knee the body over and over. He even took like some hard below the belt shots. Well, one for sure below the belt shot. Second one was a little questionable because it seemed like he took it like on the belly button, but the foot also glanced the cup. Also, it was the second one he took. So the first one was clear and it was bad. The second one, for anyone that hasn't been hit hard there, I can tell you, getting hit anywhere near that area is will cause pain to that area once again. So even if you're just a little off, it's still painful getting hit just around it. And that saps energy out of guys. Just didn't matter. He just kept going. Didn't really look gassed at all the entire fight. This dude's a guy to watch for. And with this performance, I think it's time for a ranked guy next. And may I suggest Andre Muniz? And that fight just sounds like an absolute blast. Muniz has a great ground game as well, but he has shown some striking game. It's at least a little interesting. I kind of want to see more of. And Chris Curtis would be the guy to bring it out of him. Well, that's all I have here for this fight night. Be sure to check out the preview show where me and Carl break down UFC 276, which is an insane card. Oh, I can't wait for that next week. Also, it's going to be a pay-per-view fight week, which means another retro review on the main channel for me. So be sure to check that out as well. And of course, I will be recapping next week's pay-per-view. Can't wait. It's going to be a really good one. But I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you for watching.